This meets that. This meets that. You pick this and I'll pick that. We'll put them together and what do you get? A movie we describe as This Meets That. This meets that. Yeah!
Welcome back to another episode of This Meets That, the show where Ben and I take two different movies, mash them together, and come up with a brand new concept for a film, like saying, it's like this meets that. I'm Steve.
And I'm Ben.
And Ben, do you have a film to mash up?
I do. I know you have seen this. I don't know if it'll be necessarily good, but there's a lot of parts to it.
You know, we always say that, and we're always surprised at what we come up with.
Yeah, that's very true.
So let's just jump right into it, my man. On the count of three. One, two, three.
I Am
Buried.
Legend. Buried?
Yeah, which is a terrible choice considering the whole movie takes place inside of a coffin.
The Ryan Reynolds.
The Ryan Reynolds one, yeah.
Okay.
Which is a movie
I know about it. So
there's not really much you need to know. It's just the entire movie takes place in a coffin and a man's buried alive.
yeah, and then doesn't he agree to something to let his wife go, but then he ends up just staying buried?
Just wanted to spoil the whole movie for you?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's been spoiled for me.
So if you don't want to know the spoilers for Buried, here comes the spoilers for Ryan Reynolds' Buried. So he's a contractor in in Afghanistan, and he is kidnapped by terrorists, and he's not in the army, he's not a combatant, he's just like an American they just captured and buried alive, and they gave him a phone, and they're just like, hey, we want you to we know where your wife is or something like that. So we want you to send us a video of you cutting off your finger, and he's contacting the U.S. Embassy kind of stuff, and then he's just like, what do I do? And they're just like, look, man, we're looking for you, we're gonna try and triangulate your whatever, and it's like, but whatever you do, don't do anything they say. And so when they say oh, well, we'll kill your wife if you don't do this, and he's cutting off his finger, and then they're sending out that video to the U.S. and everything, so everyone's watching him cut off his finger and that kind of stuff. It's just why would, and the U.S. government's calling why would you do that? They're you're just hurting yourself, and you're not doing yourself any favor kind of shit. And so he hears the sound of planes flying overhead. He's like, oh, you got you guys, it's we think we found you, he can he thinks they can hear him digging him up, but they found the coffin of someone else that the terrorists got months ago, which was referenced earlier in the movie. It's oh, we've buried another guy you months ago, whatever. And the military actually drops bombs over where he was, and the shockwave cracks the coffin, and sand seeps in, and he just suffocates to death.
Damn.
So, yeah.
Does his wife live? Do you know? Or
yeah, I mean the terrorists aren't actually flying over.
Don't. Okay.
I think they're able to figure out who she is through records, or maybe they have the computers to look up this dude through Facebook. I think that's maybe what it is. Oh, we found your Facebook, we know who your wife is, we'll go kill her kind of thing. We have agents in America, but it was more just we're not really gonna we just want to kind of fuck with you, and he just ends up dying.
Cool.
Yeah, it's a bleak movie, but it's real good.
Yeah, and it's always a testament when you can do a full movie in one location, especially something as cramped as that.
Yeah, it's one thing when it's oh, this entire movie takes place in a house, but you have the full range of the house, and you can
it's always
peek
3 stories in a basement and a huge yard.
There's diversity in terms of where you can go and what each room can do for you or whatever. But then it's just this is just nope. It's as you can't get any smaller. It's the size of a human, a person. So.
Okay, so Buried and I Am Legend.
Yeah. I think we have to go outside of the coffin.
Yes, yeah. Or it's that's how it starts, that's how it ends. It can't be all in the coffin.
Yeah, I guess you could do a thing where maybe the main character wakes up in the coffin and he doesn't remember how he got there, but it turns out he was one of the infected during this outbreak. And somehow either the infection brought him back to life, or he never truly kind of died. And so he escapes the coffin, and now you just have this movie where, I mean, you can still do it sort of small, where they've piled all the bodies, these dead infected, and so now it's just a warehouse where maybe a bunch of them are starting to wake up, and it's okay, well, they're alive now, and they can talk and speak, or maybe they have to slowly sort of their brain function hasn't fully come back, but it's do we kill them? Do we let them out? And so it just becomes this thing of and now all these people are trying to decide like how do we escape this building that they're all holding us in because they thought we were just this like this thing that if like our bodies decompose in the soil or something, they would the infection could spread. And I mean, I guess they would just burn them. There would be no purpose to hold on to the bodies unless they were doing like testing. But then it's like, okay, we all need to like either escape or do we not escape in order to keep everyone safe because we don't know if we're actually infectious or not. You could do something like that.
First thing that comes to mind for me, say it's Vietnam.
Ooh.
And someone is shot, they are presumed dead, and their body is just thrown into a trench with a bunch of other bodies.
Mass grave.
Mass grave, and they are kind of
Ooh, that's a good title.
Mass grave.
Yeah.
Keep it in mind.
All right.
And so bodies are like being piled on top of them, and they come to, and there's something that's like skulking around this mass grave. It's some hideous, deformed monster thing, and it's using this mass grave as like a feeding buffet.
Yeah.
And is either, because it's the I Am Legend is kind of vampire-y, maybe it's like trying to suck out the last remnants of blood from each one, but you're supposed to have live, living, fresh blood to be a healthy vampire, and maybe because it's only able to feed on the dead, it has gotten more monstrous and Nosferatu-like. And maybe it's like blind and sniffing around, and it can smell there's some fresh blood somewhere in this huge pit. So this person who's buried, and maybe they're shot through the knee, so they can't walk, so they're trying to maneuver around, trying to hide themselves from this skulking monster, all while it takes place like in this mass grave. And maybe they get out and they're going through the jungle or trying to get back to the thing before the helicopter comes, and this disgusting thing is slowly pursuing them. And, maybe since our hero is injured, make it kind of weak, slower, like I said, blind. And it's, so it's not just this ravenous thing that can get him in a second. And so it's kind of scary that you have to lay still and you have this thing that's stepping right over you and sniffing around. You got to smear yourself with the entrails of your dead buddy to try to hide yourself.
Kind of like part predator. Because I could see there being a situation where like Vietnam was known for all these like really grotesque kind of traps hidden throughout the jungle, and you could do like a lot of fun stuff with that. And it's like, okay, I can use this, and maybe this creature is even like sleeping in some, those little, I don't know what you call them, foxholes, where it's like in the ground. They just have like a cover over them, and those like spiders who will jump out.
Spiders,
will come out, and like that's kind of like what they're what it's doing.
Yeah, they're thinking it's the Viet Cong or have set all these traps, but no, they're actually just in the domain of this crazy jungle vampire.
And there's probably like underground
jungle vampire, good title.
There's like small tunnels you can kind of like move through, and maybe the mass grave is sort of upset the natural order. Just like the smell has the bodies have attracted, so it's more active now than it was before. Maybe it's like one of those rare creatures that like people would go missing in the jungle from time to time, but like no one. It's the chupacabra. It's like a legend, but it's not really. No one really believes it exists, but it's like this actual creature that is just like feeding on all these dead bodies that are just left around from the war. And so our hero can like maybe, like you said, is injured and has to kind of crawl around, but is aware of the traps because they're are in the Viet Cong. Can I say Viet Cong?
Yeah. It's not a slur. It's just like saying soldier.
Okay. And just so I think you could do a lot of fun stuff with that. Ooh. Yeah. And you can still call it mass grave.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And maybe this monster is not really a monster. It was just a normal person, but it was also someone who was like trapped out there, started feeding on bodies. And because that like the story of the Wendigo is you eat other human, you kind of turn into the Wendigo yourself. Maybe it's something like that. Someone who's just, maybe they were a coward and they were hiding with the dead so they wouldn't have to fight, and they had to survive by like feeding on it and slowly turned them into a monster. Who knows? There's a lot of things you could do with that. Yeah, and there's so many like Agent Orange and all the carpet bombings, and there's just a lot of fun.
You could definitely, if you wanted to make it just a kind of a
Didn't we do Home Alone versus Predator? Isn't that one of them? Because this kind of seems like a Home Alone versus Predator.
I mean, we've definitely done Home Alone before.
Yep, like I said, we need a board.
Anyway, I think this could be fun, and there's the groundwork if you wanted to make it a human who's just like grotesque, and like you said, there's the chemical warfare could just give you reason to really ugly that person up, or you just make a new creature,
Just a new monster.
yeah, I'm sure there's stuff like deep in Vietnamese or Asian lore that you could pull from and just make up some weird creature that at least us Americans haven't really seen before. And just like Vietnam would have been a good place to eat people in the jungle.
Yeah.
So
Because now I'm kind of picturing there was a lot of atrocities during World War II, and what if it was this creature that goes where the mass death is, and then maybe like during the Black Plague, these things were everywhere because half the population was dead or dying. And
it's just but for war.
Maybe, yeah, or and disease. It's like maybe people think it's one of the horsemen of the apocalypse or something like that, and it just always shows up when humanity's at its lowest, and then they're not impossible to beat, so maybe you can kill them, and then they go and they hide and they lay dormant until we start acting like shitheads again, and then they come back up, and then that opens it for multiple sequels of throughout time, and there's a huge massacre at a protest or something, so now you got the monster in the city or whatever.
Cradle to the mass grave. That's the sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know what? I don't want to say I love war, but we've seen so many World War I movies, so many World War II movies, and so few Vietnam movies. And,
I wouldn't say that, but go ahead.
Well, I just mean in terms of like when you think of war, like Saving Private Ryan always comes to mind. It's like the two Vietnam movies are Platoon and Born on the 4th of July, maybe.
Deer Hunter, Forrest Gump.
That's not a...
I know it's not a war movie, but there's
Vietnam's
tons of Vietnam. I mean, freaking... Oh, I guess MASH was Korean War, but...
and just in the grand scheme of, like, going back to the well of war, Vietnam is on the lower end, I think.
I don't know. I'd like to see some stats on that. Like, which war is depicted the most? World War II.
Obviously,
and what's the second one? Because I think I'd see more Vietnam than World War One.
I just think you've seen more World War One. It just blends in with World War Two because it's the same story.
Very similar. Yeah.
It just a little bit. But like you think of Vietnam because it's like even We Were Soldiers. Like, oh, is that Vietnam? No. Yeah, I just
Tears of the Sun. Is that Vietnam?
It might take place in Vietnam, but not during the Vietnam War.
It could take place in Africa for all I know.
Actually, I think it is in Africa.
I think it might be.
Yeah. No, it's definitely in Africa.
But like with Afghanistan and Iraq, I know they're more modern wars. So, have we gotten more of those than Vietnam? But I just feel like Vietnam is
honestly,
used
I think
a lot.
so.
Yeah,
I just think Vietnam is more standoutish because it is a jungle setting versus like either the Polish countryside or the desert.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of times we don't go to... Oh, Full Metal Jacket's the other one. Full Metal Jacket and Platoon are the two big ones.
Yeah.
But we just don't go to Vietnam a lot because America doesn't want to remember the war that, we lost. Or at least didn't do very well in.
What's the one with the horror?
Apocalypse Now.
Apocalypse Now? They exist.
They're there. Whatever. We're getting off track. Point is, I think Vietnam is a well worth going back to,
especially
for content.
If you're making like a monster movie. I don't think we see a lot of that. With Overkill, we had World War II and weird zombie vampires. You had that.
I mean, there's a lot of the Nazis were doing experiments. Here's a horror movie monster thing set in World War II.
There's World War I with Chloe Grace Moretz, the something in the clouds. She's in a plane, and there's like a gremlin attacking the plane. God.
What?
Yeah, it's recent. Something about...
I mean, I believe you.
She's like in the little gunner seat, and she's like trying to get a ride home, and there's just like, no dames on an airplane, and then there's like a gremlin on the wing, and she's like, oh, there's a gremlin out there, and like, oh, these crazy dames.
This sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I think I've seen the trailer for this, but I don't.
Something with clouds.
Anyway.
I watched it. It wasn't bad. It's not terrible. It's like a whole third of the movie is her just in that little gunner seat, and they like don't go to any other location. It's just like her for
Just shooting gremlins in the sky.
or just kind of trying to keep the latch closed, trying to fight one off because I don't think the gun is working at that time. But anyhow, yeah.
So let's get back to
Mass Grave, I Am Legend, monster, disease, being buried. It all kind of works.
Yeah, it tracks. We could write that horror
Yeah,
movie.
I think so.
Yeah, I think it'd be simple enough.
We don't do this often, but do you have a director in mind? Or an actor? For some reason, I'm
Timothy Chalamet. We're gonna put him in everything.
I was saying like Cody Smith McPhee.
No, I don't want to see that.
I don't want to see him either, but that's just what I was picturing.
I mean, you definitely want to get a hot, and I don't mean hot in terms of like sexually attractive. I just mean like hot as in like everyone knows this person. Like I don't want to say Tom Holland, but someone Tom Holland-esque in terms of like age range, like a young soldier who's like whose unit has been wiped out, and maybe you could even get like a bunch of big name stars for like essentially cameos, like because they're only in like the first 10 minutes, and then it's just like, oh, we're going on a mission, guys, and it's like they're in all the trailers, they're on the promotional posters, and then the first 10 minutes, dead, all
horrible
of them.
ways.
So it's just the one.
Yeah, and I think like even he could like come across another one of his buddies who is also still alive, and he's trying to save him in the grave, but there's too many bodies on top of him, so he has to leave them there, and he has to watch his friend get eaten by this monster.
Yeah, or like a group of soldiers come back and they shoot him, and then it's like, oh no, I have to deal with. But he uses the monster to help kill some of these guys that come back.
Yeah, like do the Vietnamese know about this thing and they're like, stay clear of the pits, or are they taken by surprise as well?
I could see that being they know the creature exists. They might still have to like set up a board. They check in every now and then. It's like Sheila from Lord of the Rings. Like they can walk through the area, but it's like we can only really come here like during the daytime.
Yeah,
because like we don't want to be here when this thing pops out, kind of thing. So I could see them using it, but also still being like kind of afraid of it. Not trying to. But it's like, oh, but if this American gets out, then they have to like chase him, and maybe there's him being alive makes them like take the risk, because like if this guy gets away,
he has the special info for whatever.
He'll come back with information. And have us all.
He'll have the coordinates to bomb the special. Yada yada yada. Actor, I don't really care. Just someone young. I could kind of picture maybe a young black guy, because even during Vietnam, black people were not treated as nicely. And so I can see his squad leaders, if they survive it, it's like, oh, he may still be alive, because maybe he radios in at one point. It's like, that's a loss we're willing to sacrifice.
I'm gonna say John Boyega for this movie.
I was just thinking John Boyega.
I like John Boyega, and he's dealt with these kind of creatures before in Attack the Block. Watch Attack the Block. So yeah, I'm gonna say John Boyega for right now is my pick for actor.
Okay. Hey, get whoever did Overkill. I think could handle this as director.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, we'll say Overkill for now.
Sure.
Unless I think of someone would do better.
Yeah.
What about? Do you want to cast any of the group for fun? Is there any other actors who pop in?
Yeah, I mean, so
do you want it to be an all black squad? Do you want it to be a mixed squad?
No, it could be a mixed squad.
Yeah, I think so too.
You don't want to go too old. It's like you're not going to say Brad Pitt and George Clooney. They're too old to be in Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
So you got to go.
They'd be like the general who like gives him the mission or something.
So
like
maybe
that.
like you could probably get away with like an Andrew Garfield
as like the captain
on the older send.
Sure. Okay.
Let's just get everyone from Under the Banner of Heaven. You get Wyatt Russell. You get the Culkin brother.
Yeah, let's just get all the Culkins.
Yeah. Have all the Culkins in it.
Just have it's like, man, they put all the family in one unit. That's real weird. I don't know if that's a great idea.
Yeah, I don't have anyone.
That's not real, everybody. We're not going to cast all the Culkins. I mean, if we were allowed to cast, it may be kind of fun to do that, but there'd be some producers who would go, absolutely not.
No, we're not doing that.
That makes no sense. That's stupid. It's going to be so distracting to see all the Culkins in one place.
Go a couple of years ago, I can see a Gyllenhaal. I could see a McGuire, Let's get all
just a couple years ago, not a decade ago.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, in the past.
Sure,
in
yeah.
their youthful prime, I could see them being in something like this. And
Okay.
Adrian Brody, you know, I'm going way back. I'm early 2000s.
Well, I mean, Adrian Brody to do Predators.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, Predators.
Predators, yeah.
And I think he did do a movie called, it might have been called Wrecked, where his car crashes in, like, the middle of the woods or something, and I think his legs are broken. There's something where he's just, like, kind of, like, trapped in the woods or something like that, and he has to, like, make his way, survive. I don't know if a bear strikes him. I don't know. I didn't see the movie, but I just remember seeing a trailer where he, like, crashes his car off of, like, a ravine or something, so he's just, like, in the middle of the woods and has to, like, survive.
Cool.
So he's in this wheelhouse. Maybe we'll get Adrian Brody to direct it, just because.
Okay. Yeah, why not?
Does he want to step in the directing
Has
chair?
he ever directed anything? I don't know.
Yeah.
Cool. I like it. Mass Grave.
Mass Grave.
Cool. All right. On to number 2. You got a movie?
I do have a movie.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. The
Peanut
Count of
Butter
Monte
Falcon.
Cristo. The Count of Monte Cristo and Peanut Butter Falcon. I've never seen Peanut Butter Falcon. Why would I see Peanut Butter Falcon?
Because it's fantastic.
God, that trailer was awful. And that title is awful. There's nothing about it that, even though I like Taron Egerton, isn't it Hugh Jackman as well?
What do you think movie I'm talking about? It's Shia LaBeouf and Dakota.
The wrestling
Yeah.
is kid brother or whatever, or his friend who has like Down syndrome.
There's a guy who escapes his assisted living home and then runs into Shia LaBeouf, who then becomes like an older brother type, and they go on this like road trip adventure kind of thing. Not really on the road, but
a wrestler?
to take him to a wrestling camp
Okay, to take him to wrestling. What am I thinking of?
with Hugh Jackman and Joel Edgerton.
No, Taron Egerton.
Taron Egerton. Oh,
Skiing?
You're thinking of Eddie the Eagle.
Peanut Butter Falcon, Eddie the Eagle. It's the same thing.
Okay, yeah.
Have you seen Eddie the Eagle?
I have not seen Eddie the Eagle. But watch Peanut Butter Falcon because it's fantastic.
Yeah.
You're the worst. So
I don't like Shia LaBeouf. He's not very good in things. Most things.
okay. Did you watch Honey Boy?
No.
Okay.
Is that good?
I liked it more than I thought I was going to.
Okay. I like that concept of the door-to-door magazine people because I've had so many encounters with them back in the day.
And by the way, you're thinking of a totally different movie than Honey Boy. Honey Boy was a semi-autobiographical story of Shia LaBeouf. You're thinking of the movie where it's like Shia LaBeouf and that one girl sell coupons, but really it's about them like traveling the country and fucking each other.
Honey something or American Honey or?
I think it's called American Honey, yeah. But
Okay.
Honey Boy is a different thing.
Damn it, Shia LaBeouf! You need to like have some more diverse titles. Okay, I do remember that. Because
I told you 2 different movies and you thought they were 2 completely
two
different
wrong
movies.
ones. Oh my god. Because he's like the parent of a kid and he's a stunt guy, right? For Honey Boy?
Yeah, Shia LaBeouf is essentially playing his dad, who was like a clown back in the day, but
Is it the story of Shia LaBeouf's dad? Like real life dad?
well, it's the story of Shia LaBeouf as a kid and his relationship with his dad. Now it's different names, but it's like similar situations. Like he's young and growing up on a kid set like Even Stevens, and his dad is just kind of like this verbally abusive kind of piece of shit who's just like wants his son to be so famous. So and like kind of, but it's actually pretty good. Shia LaBeouf and the kid are both really good in it.
Okay.
The woman who directed the season finale of Dave directed it.
Okay.
Which is a great episode of TV.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Anywho, so Peanut Butter Falcon and what did I say?
I forgot what you said at this point.
The Count of Monte Cristo.
Count Monte Cristo. So prisoners. Well, I mean, they both involve escape.
Yeah, leaving to go get a goal. One's
revenge,
and
one is to become a wrestler. Now, I've seen The Count of Monte Cristo, but it was 15 years ago, so I really don't remember details other than there being a prison escape, and then there's a sword fight at the end.
He loved a woman, and his friend was jealous because Jim Caviezel was just like better than Guy Pearce, so he frames him, and he gets thrown into prison where he's kind of like tortured and beaten, and Guy Pearce kind of just swoops in and takes the girl, and she like marries him instantly. and so Jim Caviezel is trying to dig out, but he's like digging the wrong. No, I'm sorry. The person in the cell next to him is trying to dig out and digs the wrong way and digs into his cell. And he's just like, oh my God, I've been doing this for years and I was going the exact wrong way. But then they start like going back and forth to each other's cells, teaching each other, and he learns how to sword fight, learns different languages and math, and it takes years and years and years and years. And then so they plan to dig out the right way, but his cellmate dies and he swaps the bodies so he can be like chucked into the ocean and escape. He does. And he was also told of the location of like the world's greatest treasure. It's like 100,000 times more than anybody else could ever imagine having. It's like tons of money. So he even like comes in on a blimp to like make his grand appearance.
Prince Ali and
yes, very much so.
And Aladdin.
And then like everyone's like, "Oh, you look really familiar. Do I know you?" I'm like, "No, I come from a faraway land you've never heard of." And
America.
And so it turns out like she only married Guy Pearce because she was pregnant with Jim Caviezel's baby and needed to marry quick, or otherwise look like a whore. And she gives birth to Superman.
Brandon Routh?
No.
Christopher Reeve.
No. Yes, Christopher Reeve.
Tom Welling.
The other one, the newest one.
Henry Cavill.
Young Henry Cavill. Like 18-year-old Henry Cavill is his son. Yeah.
Good for him.
He looks exactly the same, just baby face. And then so he uses his money, everything he learned, to get revenge on his best friend that framed him.
Oh, all right.
Okay. So how do you mix that with Peanut Butter Falcon?
So we have a character who is of special needs, and he was really looking forward to going to a wrestling match and seeing his favorite wrestler.
Okay.
And he has a best friend who isn't special needs, but this kid is like a total dick and kind of just like hangs out with him because
makes him feel superior.
Makes him feel superior, and his mom's kind of just like, well, I'm hanging out with this kid because I have to, but he's just kind of like picks on him. But the kid with special needs doesn't quite get that this kid is being a dick and everything. And they're just like, oh, I got my mom got tickets to this wrestling thing. Do you want to come since you're my best friend? And it's just like, oh, well, that's the one kind of like the one thing they do connect on, because this kid also really likes wrestling because it's a good way to beat up on people kind of thing. But when they're like walking home from school one day, like some older kids are like kind of giving him a hard time, and the kid with special needs is trying to like protect him, but then there like a struggle ensues, and basically the mean kid accidentally kills one of the other kids, but he blames it on the special needs kid because it's like, well, it's his fault, and like he doesn't know any better. So it's just like and because like when the kid either like stabs him or hits him over the head with a rock, the kid with special needs like gets and is like trying to like, or maybe he doesn't quite die, but he's like trying to like
stop the bleeding
or something, and that actually kind of like does more damage or something. So now he's just like covered in blood, and he just looks like he was the one who did it. And so now he has to go to juvie or jail or wherever, and he's framed for this crime he didn't commit. He's just like, I can't believe he did that to me, and now I don't get to see my favorite wrestler. And so like his whole thing is like, I'm gonna escape, and not only am I going to get revenge, but I'm going to see my favorite wrestler. The wrestling theme is just kind of...
Well, like, maybe they did, like, backyard wrestling stuff. And that bully that comes along, like, oh, you guys are so stupid, this is so fake or whatever. And so when he's like, oh, let me show you some moves, and he breaks the guy's neck doing a wrestling move. But the crappy friend, even though he blames it on the special needs kid, he goes off to he goes to the wrestling camp, learns out he's good, he becomes a professional wrestler. So
it's like a decade later.
He's now living the dream that special needs kid has always wanted to do. But while he is in this detention center, he meets a lovable coach, gym leader, old wrestling coach, something like that. And so he teaches him things, and they realize like he's not a threat. He serves his time, and 10 years later, he does get out. But maybe that wrestling coach had died and left him his fortune. So he has a house to go to and everything, and he uses that money to become like a name in the indie wrestling circuit, and he wears like a luchador mask or something, so nobody can really see who his real identity is.
Okay.
So then he moves
I
up
like
in
this.
the ranks, and when he gets to like finally the big match or whatever, he's able to like confront his old friend at the big WrestleMania or whatever. I don't know how he gets him back for like framing of the murder.
Yeah, I mean, it would be. Oh yeah, if I don't know if you could do this and it work, or if it would just be offensive to language. We might have to cut around this, but it's like if his coach was like Mexican or something like that,
Okay.
and that's kind of like why he wears. That's an excuse of why he wears it, because maybe our main character is white or black, or it doesn't really matter.
But he's honoring his.
But he's honoring his coach, because it's like, oh, this was his mask that he wore in wrestling, and also taught him Spanish while he was in jail.
Okay.
And so like everyone just thinks he's like, when he has this speech impediment, everyone just thinks he's foreign, but really it's
Okay.
his
Down syndrome. Yeah.
Down syndrome voice or whatever. We're getting into murky territory. I don't know, but I mean, I think story wise it works, and I think dumb people who wouldn't notice that it could track. Not audience wise, I'm talking about people in the movie.
Yeah.
So anyway, but yeah, and then you have him train in prison. He gets all bulky, and he learns skills from this guy, and when he gets out, he's got a place to stay, and then he uses. Okay, I do like this movie.
So it's like, how does he get him back at the end? Because in Count of Monte Cristo, he just stabs him in a sword fight. So we don't.
I mean, I think what you do is you have him set up a kind of, not necessarily a fake promote, like it's going to be a real wrestling match, but it's just like it's like kind of it's like one of those internet. It's like a viral thing where it's like, I challenge you to meet me here, and it's like, we're gonna wrestle 1-on-1, and if you beat me, I'll give you $1 million. It's like, well, this is too good to pass up. I can't not face this guy. It's easy money. It's like, wrestling's fake, or even if this guy actually tries to hurt me, like I'll kick his ass, because I've been kicking people's ass my entire life. And then they go, and he reveals himself at the end as they're fighting, and I don't know. And I mean, you could do something where, the guy admits to his wrongdoings, and, he goes to jail or whatever, but.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's not even like, maybe the statute of limitations is passed, and like, there's no way this guy's going to jail, but he's going to pay in some regards. Like,
I'm going to ruin his career.
You're going to look like a shithead, and I'm going to beat you the way you should have been beaten, because I didn't kill that person, you did, and that's what it's about. It's not really about so much, like, it is a revenge story, but it's not like you're gonna die or you're gonna go to prison, but you're gonna know that I beat you. And
because we really need to show him be like a real shitty friend. But our lead still kind of, it's the only person in his life, and he really looks up to him, because maybe he is a really good wrestler, and he thinks like, oh, that's what I want to be, so I gotta kind of put up with his bullshit in order to reach my dreams. Yeah, but I need to know like how he gets his revenge. Like, does he get him recorded saying a slur about special needs people, and so they play it on the jumbotron, and he finally unmasks himself, and they go like, oh my god? But I don't know. I don't know what the final revenge is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you could do like a private match where he thinks he's not being like streamed or something, and just, I don't know. I mean, maybe just have I guess you could have the wrestling match, they fight, he wins, and then it's like afterwards they, and the whole time the guy has to act like he doesn't recognize this guy or whatever, but he doesn't. It's not like he reveals himself and like the whole world's watching, and he's just like, you did this to me, I blah 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 blah. It's just like, now who beat you, and then they go back, and then he's like, I can't believe you did this to me, and they like goes, it's like, and then they have a conversation, and like that's when he's like, well, I've been recording, like this part has been streaming in the locker room or something like that, you know what I mean?
Well, in Count of Monte Cristo, it's not that like I gotta use all my wealth to eventually have a sword fight with you. It's like, I'm gonna become friends with you, I'm gonna undermine your businesses, I'm gonna make your family hate you, I'm gonna make your business partners hate you. It's like, there's a lot more to than just, I want you dead. So maybe he's able to reveal a lot of stuff about his past that he never wanted to be revealed. And so he's kind of like, he makes him lose his sponsorship with fucking SpaghettiOs or whatever it is. And well, I was thinking of, because Chef Boyardee,
SpaghettiOs, the official food of wrestling.
well, WWF had a thing with Chef Boyardee.
Really?
Chef Boyardee, yeah, and it would just be like Big Show comes busting in and he's like, you gotta eat your beefaroni or whatever it is. Yeah, and Mankind and
Wow.
yeah. So, he loses his sponsors. He makes his wife leave him, or like shows his wife that he's been cheating on her. Like he needs to kind of ruin his career more than just beat him in a match.
Well, or maybe it's a thing of, so while he's in prison, he has the coach, but he also has another, like he makes a friend in there who kind of like looks out for him and everything. And so they both get out, roughly around the same time. And so the kid was, the wrestler with special needs, he's the one who does like the fighting, but when it comes to like talking to the crowd or doing interviews, he's always wearing the luchador mask, so he gets his buddy to do all the talking. It's like, so he uses him to like, when he's like, oh, I'll take off my mask, and then they become friends because they don't know, and it's like, everything he tells you, give me that information or record it or whatever, and then we'll use it, and then I'll be the one who fights him at the end. And that's sort of like a workaround of that.
Sure.
What do we call this movie?
There's got to be like a wrestling term that would be perfect for this. Because like there's No Holds Barred, there's that wrestling movie. There's got to be, there's ladder matches, there's cage matches, there's
the Count of Monte Risco, and Monte Risco is his wrestling name. Hang on. Wrestling with Revenge?
No,
don't like. Okay.
Don't like that.
Special Move?
Special Move. I mean, usually they're called like their finishers.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's. I'm working with what I got here, Ben.
Yeah. Finishing move wouldn't be bad.
Yeah, because I mean,
He's making moves to finish this guy.
Yeah, let's go with finishing move.
Finishing move. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
I think finishing.
I mean, I like our first one more.
Sure.
The second one's slightly problematic, but I mean, there is a movie there.
Yeah.
I could see us writing the first one.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't even go see the second one.
we're not the guys for that movie.
Yeah. It's like the Fighting with My Family. It's like 20 years ago I probably would have seen that, but nah, not anymore.
I mean, you're a pretty big wrestling fan, or at least were.
Yeah. My boss is really into it, so I talked to him about the classics, because when I got back into it, I was in my 20s, and he's like 10 years younger than me. So when he was a kid, he was watching the like Attitude generation,
right.
And so that's kind of when I was getting back into it. So we have a lot of fond memories, but I don't follow it.
So who's your favorite wrestler of all time? Let's just take a side.
Sure. My back in the day, my favorite was the British Bulldog. He when I was a little kid, like, of course I loved Hulk Hogan, I loved the Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man Randy Savage. They were all very cool, but it's like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, those were two of like the best. But there was something about the British Bulldog that I really liked. Now, he trained with Bret Hart. He's his brother-in-law. I think he married his sister. He's part of that whole Hart Foundation. But he was huge. There wasn't a lot of British people in wrestling. He had like braids. So it was like a white guy with braids was like so interesting. He came down with a dog. I don't know. He was technically a very good wrestler. He wasn't as good as Bret Hart, but he was really good. And then I also liked Tatanka, who was just an Indian. Kind of problematic. You don't do that shit anymore.
I mean, half the people in wrestling were problematic for the time.
Oh, yeah. It'd just be like, the samurai. And it's just like, yeah, they saw that I was Japanese and they couldn't think of anything else. But yeah, British Bulldog was always my man.
And he was actually British?
Yeah.
Cool.
I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was, unless it's just...
Doing an accent the whole time?
Oh, my God. And I watched a documentary that he was in partially not too long ago. Yeah, I think he's British. I think he came over and or like moved to Canada and worked with the Harts to become a wrestler. Yeah.
Now, where does Bonesaw fit into your favorite wrestlers?
Bonesaw McGraw.
He's always ready then.
Did you know that they cut his the line of like, "Oh, did your husband make that for you?" They cut it out of like rebroadcasting.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, I think if you watched it on HBO, it would still be there, but if it's on
Like TNT or something.
yeah, they cut it out. Or maybe it was because it's on Disney or something like that now. Yeah. I know.
Okay.
It's not a good line, but hey, it's part of the movie, and you just got to deal with it, and it's your choice to watch it or not.
Yep.
And it's not even like that offensive.
No.
It's not like he calls him the F slur or anything like that.
All right. Well, let us know if you would see Mass Grave or.
Well, you want to do a director versus director?
Sure.
Because we generally have that on these.
Why not?
Uh,
Yeah, list of directors up there too on the whiteboard.
yeah, we would have to.
Okay. I got one.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Jordan
Damien
Peele's
Chazelle,
Us.
La La Land. Or Whiplash. What was your choice?
Us. Jordan Peele's Us.
Oh, let's go Whiplash then.
Whiplash?
No.
La La Land?
Let's go La La Land.
Okay. Okay.
Like, Whiplash would be easy to make into a horror film, but I want to see, has there ever really been, like, a horror musical? Like, I know there's been, like, comedic
Yeah.
horror, but it's like, has there just been, like, a musical that isn't trying to be funny, but is horror?
No. I mean, maybe, but, because there's this one zombie apocalypse that's a musical. Fuck. It's a British movie, but it's a comedy.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of, like, musicals in general are kind of silly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're almost comical. But, I mean, you have something like Les Miserables, which is, dark and dreary and stuff, but is very serious.
But
like,
there's no vampires in it.
But there's no it's like, can you do a horror movie where people are singing?
There's gotta
Or would it be
one,
just
right?
too out there? Because I think that'd be a fun challenge.
Mm-hmm.
If someone could make... It doesn't have to be great,
Yeah.
but...
Because all I can think of is like someone's being chased by Jason and they're like singing a song about having to be quiet or whatever, but I could see it still being played for laughs.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be hard.
Who's your director? What's his name?
Damien Chazelle. La La Land.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. Horror.
I think
Google that.
I think you can. I think there'd be fun, like musical notes. Like if you think to the Doctor Strange musical note fight scenes.
Sure.
Like you could, like something stalking you to a musical beat. I think could be really easily done.
Yeah.
In an interesting way. But then again, it's like, would you just have your main character go like, I hope he doesn't hear me. Mm-hmm. And then the monster go, I definitely hear her.
Okay, so it has Cannibal the Musical, Sweeney Todd, Phantom of the Opera, Corpse Bride, Phantom of Paradise, Rocky Horror Picture Show, The Legend of Beaver Dam, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay, so Nightmare Before Christmas is a no, and Cannibal the Musical, that's the Trey Parker, which isn't a horror. And then Sweeney Todd, I guess, is horror.
Yeah.
I think that's the closest on the list to like
that and Phantom, I guess, but Phantom's not. It's like a classic Universal horror monster, but it has kind of evolved past that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Sweeney Todd would be the close, and like Sweeney Todd's a good movie, and I like the songs.
It's all right. I wasn't super impressed.
Well, you just hate musicals anyway.
Yeah, because I like my horrors. I like my musicals to be comedic.
Yeah. But in terms, it's a horror film, but it's not horrific.
Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah. Okay.
Repo, a genetic opera.
I'd say Little Shop of Horrors is essentially a comedy, though.
Oh, Anna in the Apocalypse. That's the one I was thinking. Zombie apocalypse, and it's a musical. It's not bad. Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead. You know. Oh, I don't know any of these. Killer Rack, The Devil's Carnival, Maximum Shame. Yeah. Ooh. So yeah, I'd say Phantom, Little Shop of Horrors, Rocky Horror Picture Show, and Sweeney Todd. Those are your three musicals. But I guess those are pretty comedic, or at least Rocky Horror and
Yeah,
Little
Rocky
Shop of
Horror's,
Horrors.
yeah, those two are comedic.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Sweeney Todd.
Sweeney Todd is, violent, and there may be some unsettling imagery, but it isn't scary. I was like, can you do a jump scare horror movie that would like genuinely go like, oh, this is like scary, but the song.
Yes.
Hereditary with music,
Yeah.
If any directors are out there listening, make that. I'd like to see it.
See, I can see like a Sam Raimi doing that because he has a very specific way of editing and very extreme camera work. I can see it working for a musical. I nominate Sam Raimi.
I feel like it might be a cop-out, but I'm going to go with Edgar Wright.
Oh, okay.
For it, only because he has experience with horror. He clearly knows the genre. And I think Last Night in Soho. Last Night in Soho, if could have easily been sort of transferred to the musical genre if they wanted to, and that was essentially a horror movie. So I think it would be and he clearly has an ear for music in his film. So I think horror and music would be an easy transition. It's like, okay, well, let's just go the full 100% all the way in and make a musical but scary.
Cool, I'm down with it. That's not our thing.
Yeah.
So we are pitting two directors against each other: Jordan Peele's Us and Damien Chazelle's La La Land. Did I say that right? Chazelle,
yeah.
Chazelle. Okay. So what else has Damien Chazelle done?
He did First Man with Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling, sorry, and Whiplash. Those are his big three. And there might be another one, but I forget.
Interesting. Well,
And Jordan Peele has done Get Out and Us.
Yes. So, but I can see him doing a La La Land. Just seeing Key and Peele, they've had some fun musical numbers. What was it? Oh, Negro Town, hilarious. Real fun stuff. I don't know if he wrote any of that or if he directed any of that. I'm just going based off it being his show. But I could see him doing La La Land.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, Damien Chazelle is in a... like Jordan Peele, I think, has sort of... Whether he's really created or not is up for debate, but he has sort of... kind of made a popular genre in the past couple of years that you've seen where it's like, I don't know what you would call it, but I'm just going to say like racial horror.
Okay.
A lot of horror-based stuff around racial issues have come up in the past few years after Get Out came out, with Us and Them on Amazon. And what's that other thing that we watched recently that was in the same realm? Candyman is kind of like that. Yeah. There's just been this wave of things that once Get Out came out, they were like, all right, well, we need to do more of that kind of stuff. Yeah. So while Damien Chazelle I don't think is trying to make race-related stuff, he definitely feels like a director who's, I could see a lot of people go like, oh, those are white people movies. Like,
First Man,
that's like La La Land. That's a white people movie.
Yeah, it is.
So I think it'd be interesting to see. Honestly, I think it'd be interesting to just see two directors from two different spectrums. Like, Whiplash is not an upbeat movie, but it does sort of have like an upbeat kind of ending. Beat drums. But it's like you take a guy who's like, well, I make sort of happy, inspiring stories, and I make stories of like the worst thing to happen to people and just switch them. So I think, Jordan Peele has done comedy for so long. Like you said, I think it would be an easy fit for him to do a musical and do something fun and lighthearted. Where like, I don't know if Damien Chazelle really goes dark. Yeah,
because looking at his IMDb, he doesn't have a whole lot on there.
He did write Grand Piano, which you haven't seen. It is like a thriller, but
now if Damien Chazelle took Us, do you think he would change it at all, or is it like this script is good enough as is? let's try to do it justice, or do you think what is he bringing to the table that may make a different movie?
I don't think he'd change a lot. Like, I don't think he's gonna go like, well, we need to put musical numbers in here or anything like that. I think what he would probably do is just, I think he'd, because I wouldn't say that Jordan Peele is a flashy director. Like, his movies so far have been very simple. It's not necessarily about like grand sweeping shots. Like, all of his movies are very small. I think Damien Chazelle would try and like maybe blow them up a little bit more,
especially with Us, and seeing what was the underneath called, the down below, the upside down, what was it called? The other side,
let's just call it the below.
The below. I think he would we'd get a little more cinematic look of what that is. We barely get anything. It's almost just like people with a black background passing out scissors to each other. I think we'd see a bit more with him.
Yeah, I think he would just take Jordan Peele's world and, like you said, like cinema it up a little bit, and make it more grand.
A lot of crane shots and one takes. I can see a little more pizzazz when it comes to the camera work.
There'd be more showmanship, which I think a lot of times doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with horror.
Sure.
Where you kind of, the smaller it is, the more ingrained the audience is into watching it.
Yeah.
But I think you couldn't do that with Get Out, because Get Out essentially all takes place at that house. There's not a whole lot you could do with that.
Yeah.
But like,
that's why I chose Us.
Because Us is, there's a lot of outside stuff, and they're going on lakes, and it pretty much involves, by the end, the entire world, or at least this state or county or whatever. There's plenty of more room for him to work in.
Would Jordan Peele take La La Land and make it more of a racial story, or would we still get Emma Stone and Ryan Gosling?
You know what? I think, not to put him in a box where he has to make every movie about like racial issues and what it means to be black, but I think that would be an interesting turn if you took the La La Land script and essentially kept it the same, but instead of it's Emma Stone like not getting roles because people don't think she's pretty enough or good enough, it's like, oh, she's not getting roles because there's no roles for black people.
Yeah.
And then you have the character Ryan Gosling, where like jazz is it's black music, for however you want to go with that, but there's a cultural reason for him to be into jazz, not just like, because I remember when the movie came out, it's just like, oh, here's another white guy explaining jazz to people. It's like
Sure.
It's like it wasn't their music, that kind of thing. Not to get into any of that, but there'd be a cultural reason for him to be into jazz, and him sharing his love of jazz with her would kind of like make more sense. And it's like, oh well, you should. Oh, I don't. She's like, I don't like jazz. Maybe I like whatever. And he's like, well, you should like jazz, and here's a reason. It's like maybe if she likes hip hop or whatever. It's like, well, jazz is the reason that hip hop exists, and it's like a lot of the beats and flows that come from people's love of jazz, and it's like their shared cultural experience with both those. And I'm good at this, and and then him opening a jazz club maybe makes a little bit more sense. And it's like, oh well, but he's having struggles making it, not because people don't want to listen to jazz, but it's because like people don't want to like give out business loans to black people or whatever. It's just like everything in La La Land is harder. Like, things in LA are hard for everyone, but they're harder for you if you're black too. So then you have that whole aspect of it, where it's like it's a race problem along with, but it still holds true to the original script and why those characters have those interests and are failing at the same time.
Yeah, and I can see like he wants to play jazz. Nobody wants to take a chance on him because they constantly say nobody likes jazz. But then when he gets other jobs, they're always like making him play music that he doesn't want to, or they go like, well, we don't want you to play these Frank Sinatra songs because you're black. Stick to the jazz. And it's like, well, people only want me to play jazz, but then no one wants to take a chance on me because it's jazz. What am I going to do?
Yeah. And I think it'd be funny if he wants to play jazz and, John Legend shows up in La La Land and it's like, oh, well, play music for me. He's like, well, that's kind of pop. It's like, it'd be funny if he did get a jazz gig, but it was for, who's the, like, guy.
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
The white guy with the curls. Shit.
Oh, I mean, that song is a George Michael song.
Okay, not George Michael. Who am I thinking of?
I think you're thinking of Kenny G.
Kenny G, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Kenny G is like, well, play jazz for me. It's like, well, yeah, you're technically jazz, man.
I guess.
But it's like smooth jazz. I don't know. I can just see that being like a funny little bit of just like,
Like-
oh, well, I'm playing jazz, but not. This is not the jazz that I want to play.
It's that now that's what I call jazz sort of thing, but it's all jazz for white people, and it's
Yeah.
all really simple. It's really
Right.
safe, and he's like, no, I want to play the wild stuff, the things that kind of
Yeah.
makes you
You're
confused.
playing-
and they're like, ooh, it's too loud.
Yeah, you're playing the jazz for elevators. I'm gonna play the jazz that like gets people dancing.
Yes.
You know, gets people moving and shaking.
Okay, yeah, I want to see Jordan Peele's La La Land. I want,
Yeah, I do too now.
he could add so much to it where Damien.
I mean, I'd like to see Damien Chazelle make a horror film, but I'd like to see him make something else.
Something else, not us.
But I would love to see a musical directed by Jordan Peele in any regards, I think. And like I said, if we're at the core of the script is the same.
Okay, so if we were to make a horror musical that wasn't a comedy, let's get Damien Chazelle to direct it. But who should be writing that music? Who can do scary, spooky, dark, but not like metal or anything like that? Who could write the lyrics for a horror musical? Is there anybody that jumps out to you?
I don't want to use the crutch just because we kind of mentioned it earlier, but I mean, Danny Elfman has done a ton of Tim Burton stuff, and Tim
Sure.
Burton is in, and you know, we mentioned Sweeney Todd, and he just did the music sequence, the whole movie of Doctor Strange, which has horror elements. So you take someone like that to do the score in terms of like writing the lyrics. I think, you know, you get somebody. I think you could get any writer or group of writers and kind of come up with like clever lyrics, but have Danny Elfman make the music. I think he could make it horrified.
I'm going to say John Carpenter to make the music, because he did all like Halloween, really synthy music for the original and the remake. He also did the music for the new Firestarter. All of
Didn't
John Carpenter directed.
he directed those and made the
And
music?
he made the music.
Wow,
yeah,
good for him.
His music is really spooky and fun.
Okay.
It's a little synthy, you
Yeah.
know, and maybe you don't want every song in your musical to be that, but the
Sure, but
emotion
I mean, all Hans
is there.
Zimmer's stuff is all synthy, but
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that could work. So I'll agree with you. So music by John Carpenter. Directed by Damien Chazelle.
Yep.
With a horror script from Edgar Wright.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Lyrics by To Be Determined. Yeah. I like that. Okay. Jordan Peele's La La Land. That'd be fun. Okay. That was better than I expected. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for listening. This was another episode of This Meets That and Director versus Director. If you have two movies you'd like to hear us mash up and try to make a new third movie, or you have two directors you'd like to see us discuss who would be better at the other one's work, hit us up on Twitter at WRPL Podcast. Same for Instagram. Or you can send us an email, WRPLpodcast@gmail.com. Let us know. As always, I'm Ben.
And I'm Steve.
Gotta eat your beefaroni or whatever it is.